I believe that grief is a labor of love, right?
Oh,
So grief is
wow.
a labor of love. It is, I loved him so much that now I'm in this space feeling and missing him, right? And so I just kept it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love.
Like
But there
actually
was
giving birth. It's like actually giving birth
yeah.
in that for folks who have had a baby, that there are so many levels to the
Mhm.
pain that you experience because you're birthing and bringing in something new. So, in the depths of grief, it literally is like you are birthing who you now are in this next stage, in this next place, in this next season. And birth, no matter what type of birth it is painful.
Yeah, it's a shedding. It's a shedding.
Hello, 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 Trigger Happy family. This is the end of season 12, but y'all, the things we have learned, the conversations we have been, I mean, for me at least, healing, especially while going through major life transitions. Dani, I don't know about you, but it's been a time.
Life is life in this season. This
Listen,
is I feel like this has been our most challenging season yet. No? I mean, in our personal lives.
in our personal lives, yes. We've been
Yeah.
consistent though with y'all. Listen, I only missed 1 week. And I need y'all not to judge me, okay? Because listen, I'm doing the best I can with what I got, okay? Okay.
Please continue to give us all the grace that you all have been giving us, and just pray for us and cheer us on, because we are a little bit on the struggle bus, but we are trying to wait for the next stop to get on off. Okay,
Yeah.
we ready. Come on, I'm gonna pull the little thing on the bus.
We've been pulling it like, let us out of here.
I want to break it.
Yes. I told God I was not on the strong soldier list this year, and he just
I'm
totally
finished. It is
disregarded.
finished. Let me off. Okay.
Get me out of here. Listen, we all know from 2020 until now, it has been a challenging period, from the loss of those we love to the loss of friendships, the loss of relationships, to the pivots in jobs, the loss of opportunity, there has just been a lot of loss accumulating here lately. So I'm excited for all of us to collectively pull the let me out of here. It's time for us to get off this struggle bus. And today we're actually going to tap into that. And it's a conversation that I truly believe we don't have enough of. The one thing that we all have to do is transition. However, especially in America, and I do understand that in other cultures, especially Eastern cultures, there is an emphasis on the transition and preparing folks and understanding what that means, and how you prepare for legacy. However, in America, it's not something that we give enough attention to. So many times when the grief doctor visits us, it literally can be so debilitating that for some people it is the end of their life when someone transitions, especially when it is an intimate partner or a child, or someone close to you. So this conversation, we do like to give a trigger warning, may be triggering. Okay. However, being willing to face the dark parts and the dark shadows and the scary stuff and the painful stuff, it really does give you that boost of not just energy, but that extra nuffness that you need, because we know life is life in the hell out of all of us. And we just want to make sure that we are providing tools that you can use to make life feel a little better, a little better.
Yeah, and I feel like if we have the tools, and like our whole mission of this podcast is to provide tools for
Yeah.
the triggers, for the times when life are a little bit more challenging, then we're doing our part, and we are equipping ourselves and equipping you with just everything that you need so that you can continue to grow and evolve, because that's what all the challenges are for. I know they suck, but it's like we have to get these classes and we have to do these things so that we can become better people, as painful, as dark, as miserable as it might be. So
Yeah.
we are here today with Donielle Young, founder of MHDS Media and the Grief Disruptor. Okay, hold on. We just got the Grief Disruptor herself. She's turning loss into legacy with her G3 playbook, Grief, Grit, and Glow Up. Welcome, Tanya.
Hey,
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey.
Welcome to the Triggered AF podcast. We are so happy to have you. And can we just say, or especially for me, this conversation is right on time. It's just so it's so serendipitous how we end up having these conversations, Alechia, right? Like when these are the things that we actually we personally need assistance with. So I'm excited.
No, I'm super excited. Thank you so much for having me here on the podcast and talking about grief and disrupting the culture and how we feel, how we talk, and how we kind of move through grief. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we hop into all the things, because now see here at Triggered AF, in order for us to make you a full-blown cart toting member of the Trigger Happy family, we have to initiate you.
Okay.
Not haze you, but initiate you. And it is the one question that we ask every single guest that comes to the show. And that is, outside of all the titles that you carry and the things that you do, who is it that you say you are?
Oh, that's a great question. I would use the word dynamic.
Okay.
I am dynamic. That word just kind of fits in I could be in any scale, in any way, going through anything, highs, the lows, the middles. I am dynamic and I show up in every single area, whether that's the messy middle or that's the here I am. I'm just very dynamic. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, and I love the word dynamic because it's so all encompassing, right? Like it can apply to so many different parts of your life. So, all right, dynamic. Okay.
Listen. One of the things, because it's funny, dynamic is one of my favorite words. Whenever I'm writing, whatever I'm writing, whether it is a blog or whether it is a script for a client or for myself, that word, it feels like it's the innermost authentic part of you bursting through. Like no matter what is happening, the best stuff is bursting through and getting out and touching the folks that you're meant to touch. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. So Donielle, you call yourself the Grief Disruptor. I have never heard that term before. And it just screams out and jumps off the page. And just like saying it is like, oh my God, like I need to know more about that. What is that? How did that title come to life? What does it really mean to you? Like give us the backstory on what does it mean to be a grief disruptor? And if anything needs to be disrupted, honey, it is grief. So we're happy to have somebody doing the work.
Yes, and that is exactly why I came up with that name, because there are people, and we actually do talk about grief, right? But we talk about it in a very deep, dark, very this is where I am and I'm suffering, and grief can be all kinds of levels. I'm in grief right now talking to you, so I'm trying to disrupt the language of grief. I'm trying to create a new movement and change the picture of what grief looks like, and I guess I should tell my story and why I'm talking about grief, right? So I am a widow. I lost my husband 3 years ago to stage 4 colon cancer. He was a healthy, young 47-year-old male, and he got diagnosed with stage 4 during COVID, September 2020. And he died 2 years later after battling chemo. We knew it was terminal, but we were kind of buying time. And so during that process, you have anticipatory grief. He's going through a lot of grief. My son's going through grief. I have a 16-year-old son. And so when I thought about all the different elements that I have gone through during that journey, from finding out he was diagnosed to kind of going through and changing our family, to then moving into, okay, we're into the hospice phase where he's dying, to then him leaving us, to then living a life without him. That's a whole, there's so many different phases. And so I came up with disrupting the idea that widows or people that are grieving are this always doomed, despair, heart-stricken, heartbroken. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. There's a lot of different things in there that happens. And so, I came up with that name, Grief Disruptor, because that's exactly what I want to do. I want to start a movement and say we all experience grief in some shape, fashion, or form.
Right.
And it's not always what it looks like. And so hopefully I can kind of stand behind that title and really start that movement and disrupt it.
Yeah, it definitely too is when you think about being a disruptor, it means you're on the front lines. And being on the front lines means you take them hits first. And so sometimes the weight of taking those hits can also too be debilitating, much like losing, your husband of 16 years. Like 16, a lot of people don't always get to that number of being married, because baby Jesus, marriage can be a beautiful journey, and it also can be a challenging one.
Absolutely.
And so to lose, a partner of that many years, it's a level of sadness that most people can't even imagine. And so what was the moment that you realized, like, okay, this, I can't just survive it, but I am going to completely not only disrupt this, but completely reinvent yourself in this new phase, because this is a new body, this is somebody and something that is completely new to you. So what was that?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I get that question often, and it wasn't a conscious decision, by the way. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take on life. It just, and what I always say is I experienced grief before my husband passed away. I've had childhood traumas and parent neglect and betrayal and disappointments. And so what I found myself always coming back to is I always stood up and I was like, okay, so what's next? It kind of makes sense now, when you think about the living and the dead, is that I'm still alive. I'm still here, and I say, God's not done with me yet. So what's next? What is there left to do? And so it wasn't really a conscious thought that I need to keep going, but I will give you something that my husband told me, and Brene Brown asked, what's your bittersweet? Right. And so my bittersweet with cancer is that it was bitter that he had cancer, but sweet that he had cancer, because we were able to really love on each other for those 2 years. And we were really able to, when you kind of think about your family and you think about losing someone, if you had that finite date, what would you do, during that time? And it wasn't all roses. I'm not saying that we were all in here, having parties and enjoying each other, because it was a lot of work, right? You're going through a lot of things. But I say all that to say it wasn't a conscious decision for me to decide to kind of live this life. He is also the one that said to me, we were married for 16 years. We were actually married for 11 years, together for 16, but it's so much easier just to say 16. So whatever. But we started October 18th, 2006. It was our first date that we fell in love. He passed away on October 18th, 2022. So from the first kiss to his last breath is how that happened. And so during that 2 years, he said to me, I want you to live this life. He can only say it one time, because that was the hardest part of him. But he gave me that kind of strength to say, he's no longer here, so I have to press forward and see what's next. So,
hey driver, you're not a part of the community yet? Being in community is the game changer and the cheat code.
And this is more than just a membership. It's your growth circle, accountability hub, and safe space for navigating the messy yet beautiful work of becoming your best self.
And not only will you get exclusive tools, live access, and the support designed to help you transform your triggers, but you'll also get the tools that you need to build new habits that help you to lead with clarity, confidence, and joy.
Time to create lives that feel as good as they look. See you soon, Thrive Tribe. Visit justthrivenow.com. Wow, that is, and thank you for sharing that and, being vulnerable, because I know that even like as someone who's also experienced loss of someone close, it's like everyone says like time heals, but it's like, I don't know about that. It can, like, your brain can make something feel like something happened yesterday. Like, I don't know.
100%.
But like, that's not how the brain works. But just because of the person in me who is like the wellness health person, do you mind just giving us a little bit of exactly how he was so healthy and got diagnosed with stage 4, and maybe some prevention or things people can do, and just like just to kind of give our listeners a little nugget, because a lot of our listeners are in that age range, and a lot of people don't even think that that's something they should be concerned about. I think it was Chadwick Boseman that brought a lot of that to the forefront about very young men having that. And I know after that, I made my husband go try to get it, a colon screening, and it was actually very difficult. We still haven't been able to do it because they make it like if you're not at a certain age, that it is very difficult to try to get these things, to get insurance to cover it. So if you could just give them just a quick little nugget around the health piece of that, and maybe what they should be doing, the men should be doing, or how wives can help their husbands.
Yeah, this is my most favorite question. And by the way, kudos to you, Dani. And I talk about this all the time. It is us, the women that have to get up and be like, babe, we're going to go to lunch. We're going to do a little shopping. And I schedule your doctor's appointment. So from this time to this time, we're going to the doctor. And then we're going to go have lunch and we're going to have a good time. Bring your uncles, bring your brothers. Most cancers are about preventative care. Right. And preventative care, you could read all the articles, eat healthy, eat organic, and do all these things, right? But the most thing that you can do is any screenings that you can. So for the colon cancer, my husband was healthy. He was 47 years old. He was playing football. He was playing, with the kids. He's playing basketball. Matter of fact, that's him right there. Hey, baby. That's my husband, my late husband. That's my son, and that's me there. Actually, we had a beautiful photo. So here we are, right here. That was a long.
If you guys are listening to us, head on over to YouTube so that you can actually see it. So that's how you can actually see what she's showing us. It's a photo of her husband, and her son, and we want you guys to see it. So head on over to YouTube, and while you're over there, make sure you subscribe.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Donielle.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, as you were saying, Dani, there's a certain age range, and thank goodness for everyone listening to when Chadwick Boseman passed away, they actually lowered the age, I think to 45 or 47 or something like that. They lowered the age the year that my husband was diagnosed, because that was the year that Chadwick Boseman had passed away. Yeah. And so there was no way for him to know. And I can bet that if he could have taken that screening maybe a few years earlier, they would have saw maybe some polyps or something, on his colon. He didn't complain about any pain. He didn't have any pain. He didn't have anything going on until about maybe a couple of weeks or a few weeks before it happened. But again, Dani, we're talking about men here.
Right.
My late husband is a Black Jamaican man from Brooklyn, New York. You know what I mean? And so he even if he did feel something, he was someone that would go to the doctor, but it wasn't enough to make any sting. And actually, we had an appointment for the gastroenterologist that Friday. So we had an appointment to the gastroenterologist because he's like, babe, something's not right. And then that Wednesday, he was gripping onto the side of the couch because the pain was so bad. And I was like, no, we're going to the hospital. I was like, you're not going to sit there in pain like that and wait for a doctor's appointment. Again, it's us, the women, right? We have to pay attention. And so I took him to the hospital, and they found the massive tumor on his colon, and it had already metastasized to his liver. And so when we talk about preventative care and putting a message out there to your listeners, the only thing I can tell you is get to the doctor, get your checkups. For the women on here, take your men, make the appointment for them, your uncles, your brothers, your boyfriend, whatever, your partner, like make the appointment for them. And that is really the only way. Otherwise, I don't know how much, he could have really prevented it per se. Right. But in hindsight, had we known, to your point, Dani, he wouldn't have had that, because they would have given him a hard time because he wasn't of age to have that test.
Yeah, it's my husband. When we first, I think around when Chadwick passed away, he was maybe around like 39, and even into 40. And now he's about to be 41. And he still they are just like, no, like it's not necessary. You don't have symptoms. There's nothing to worry about. Yeah. So we just continue to push and try to find a doctor that will actually do it. They will flat out refuse.
But you know what? One thing though, and this is, I get it. In America, sickness is big business. It is a $1 trillion business being sick in America.
Yep.
And so, and I understand what I'm about to say is from a privileged point of view. I get that. I accept that. And also, if you can, medical tourism is a thing because of how expensive things are in the States.
Yep.
I have friends who go to Mexico
Yeah.
for all of their dental cleanings and everything that has to do with the dentist. They go to Mexico and they can pay out of pocket because even the flight, the hotel you're going to get, and the
Yeah.
price you're going to pay is
It's
still
still
sometimes
less.
cheaper than what you have to do in America.
Yeah.
On Turkish Airlines, I prefer to fly business. However, I am not above flying economy if and when I need to. If you buy the flights in advance, people finance everything else. You will finance a purse. You will buy a trip on a credit card. You will buy a bag or some shoes, $1,000 shoes on a credit card.
True.
I would love for us, and again, I understand that this is from a privileged place, but just like you save for everything else, you can save. Heading over to Turkey, they do full panel screenings. I
Yep.
understand that, yes, it might be an additional expense. However, it is way cheaper than what it will be in the States.
Absolutely.
And having that knowing, heck, I'm planning it now for my sister and I for next year, Q3 next year. I said, I just want to make sure and just go make sure everything is okay. Getting
Yeah.
it done here in the States, it'll cost me what, 17,000 when I like priced out everything. I can go on over to Turkey, spend like 2,500
Mm.
and get even more done.
There
And
are
so
there are a lot of options
we
now.
have options, and I really, really want us to exercise our options because understand it's not just the food in America that they try to kill us with, but medicine. Again, no disrespect to all of the companies that make their money in this way, but sickness in America is big business. The sicker their people, the more money in capitalistic societies you make. And so, as folks who, okay, you understand, learn the rules so you can break them like an artist. All right,
Mhm.
since we understand what this is, let's see what pieces and parts can we do. Yes, time and chance, and all of us have a day that we are supposed to go back to our creator and our maker. But if we can extend it just a little bit longer by being a bit more proactive,
Yeah.
I would really love, because it's so heartbreaking. Like when
Yeah.
I look at even myself, some of the medical things that I've had, it's like, dang, if I had just known or had done this, I wouldn't be experiencing that. So
Yeah. And I want to add on to that too, because I think a lot of times people do not go and get checkups and get screenings because they're scared of the results, right?
yeah,
I will tell you that my husband had more fear about being a burden and being sick and in pain than he was about dying.
wow,
He
Yep.
said that to me. So just think about that. Like if you have an opportunity to catch something before it becomes a major issue for you,
yeah,
think about what happens if you let that I mean, I'm trying to say this in a kind way, but it's like you don't want to have that prolonged sickness and health issue because you didn't get the screening beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, it's like dying is almost the easier part. I
mm,
say that gently. You know what I mean? Because it's like to live in sickness and in pain. And I watched my husband in excruciating pain. You know, thank God it wasn't for like years upon years. You know what I mean? But he would say to me, listen, this is not the life I would want to live year in and year out, you know? And so think about that when most people don't go get their screening because they're afraid of what results may come up, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, and I'll just add in, when you talk about resilience and being the grief disruptor, and we'll soon talk about my playbook and what I'm doing and the grit and everything. 4 months, or actually the week before he passed away, my sister was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. She didn't tell me because he was dying, right? And she wanted me to focus on that. 4 months after he passed away, I had an abnormal breast mammogram because I wanted to continue on and get the preventative care. I had to have a biopsy. 4 months, I'm laying on the, after just, putting my husband to rest, I had to have a needle biopsy. A year after that, I went to my screening again and I had another needle biopsy that was a little bit more extensive. So I'm not speaking from a place of someone who hasn't been scared to death, quite literally, of
Yeah.
going to get the, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about me sitting in there with the breast mammogram robe. But I said to myself, I would much rather go through the fear that I have right now than
Mhm.
to find out 3 years later that I have stage three, stage whatever, and I had an opportunity to take care of it. And so, by the way, my sister is cancer free now, so she's
Oh,
doing
yeah.
really well.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm high risk now, and so it's very easy based on what I've gone through to say, "Oh my God, I'm scared." When my husband,
Mhm.
but you know what I did? I just talked to everyone. So I
Yeah.
talked to all the technicians. I let them know, and they were so kind and so gentle with me.
Mhm.
And so, but it's important. And I knew that I didn't want to live a life like that, and he didn't want. I don't want to be a burden on my son. Now he only has me. So for
Mhm.
all of you listening, and you think about your family dynamic, and you love your children, and you love your husbands and your wives and your family, think about the burden it would be if you don't take care of self, if they have to take care of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, and you literally say that's a part of your framework is feel it, call it out,
yeah,
Yeah.
right? Like you say that, like that's a part of it, not just maybe just the health symptoms that or things that you might be feeling, but the emotional things, the mental things that you might be going. Feel it, call it out. What does that actually look like day to day when grief feels like it's swallowing you whole? Because as someone who has experienced deep grief, sometimes it feels like the grief is stuck in your throat and
hmm
you can't say nothing.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Like
it's
you're
true.
just so
It takes you by
stuck.
the chokehold. Yep.
Yeah, it's very paralyzing in a lot of ways, and for especially for women, just because of how I feel we're conditioned in society. Our throat chakra is like the first thing that closes up when we're stressed, when we're
Yep.
angry, when we're grieving. And
Yeah.
so what does that when you're in the stages, in the pits of grief, like what does it look like to start to kind of open that back up, because it is very, very hard.
Yeah, it is. Period. Full stop. Period. There's no but. There's no and. It is hard. It is devastating. It
Yeah.
is hard. Um, you have to let it pass through you. There's
Mm,
no way around it. And I think what makes it harder is when we try to fight it.
yeah.
We try to
Mhm.
stay
Yeah.
alive, and we try to busy ourselves, and we try to
Mhm.
numb ourselves with different elements and things like that.
Yep.
Um, not barring mental, underlining mental health issues that someone may have. But I believe for me, I had to let it pass through me. I had to do the ugly cry. I had to cry for 4 hours until my face was swollen. I had to
Yeah.
be angry. I had to go through those stages, and I had to let it pass through me. And I had to acknowledge it. And I say, I know you're here. I believe that grief is a labor of love, right?
Oh,
So grief is
wow.
a labor of love. It is, I loved him so much that now I am in this space feeling and missing him, right? And so I just kept, it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love.
Like
But there
actually
was,
giving birth. And it's like actually giving birth
yeah.
in that for folks who have had a baby, that there are so many levels to the
Mhm.
pain that you experience because you're birthing and bringing in something new. So, in the depths of grief, it literally is like you are birthing who you now are in this next stage, in this next place, in this next season. And birth, no matter what type of birth it is painful.
Yeah, it's a shedding. It's a shedding.
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak. I'm not gonna do this justice at all, but I don't know if you. There's some culture, right, that when they have a baby, they bury. Did you hear about they bury like the blood or something of her because who she was
Yes.
before she got pregnant or had a
Mhm.
baby is no longer. They actually have a
Like
full on
mourn,
funeral
mourn. Yeah.
mourning. Yeah, and I
Mourning.
think that that is so dope. And honestly,
Yeah.
that is exactly what happened. So putting my husband aside and grieving him and missing him, oh my God, I'm no longer
Yeah.
the wife, the woman that I was. And I'm like, I'm shedding that as well. So there's so many different levels of grief that happen at the same time. But yeah, you're right. In my playbook, I touch on it. I don't stay there because I think in this culture, when we talk about grief, that's why I'm disrupting it. We're either over spiritualized like this is what I went through and here I am now because I pray every day and this is what happened. Or we're down in the deep dark and we're just talking about it every day. Oh, whoa, what's happened to me? And so I'm disrupting it, saying you can have both of those. I can pray and I know that God is the one that is the beholding of all of this, but I can also be in the deep dark, but I can also live. I can also build a life around my grief. And I'm finding now that the more I build a life around it, the grief does not change. It stays the same. It is never going to leave me. And
Never.
I don't know if we'll bring up dating here, but by the way, any gentleman that ever wants to date me, he needs to know my grief will forever be part of me, forever be part of me, you know, and I stand on that. And I think that's the other way that I'm trying to disrupt grief. It doesn't leave you. It goes up, it goes down, it comes in. And I think Dani said that earlier. You know, some days it's like, you know, okay, I'm living life, it's fine. And then other days it's like he died yesterday. I'm like, whoa, okay. You know, I'm also a solo mom now. So there's so many things there, you know, when you think about it. But my whole thing is moving out of that. And how do we move into what I call the grit, right? And start being honest with ourselves and then move into the glow up. So
Yeah. And when you're talking about grit, one of the things that I know, because I had to, I can get a little gritty, is you have to get super clear and then not give yourself the out. And you are very, very, you stand 10 toes down on not making excuses. But what I would love to know, especially because you talked about, you know, yes, the spiritual part and also the deep despair and also the ability to live. So building a life around it. How do you balance then like giving yourself that grace without slipping into those excuses that will keep you stuck? Because that's a challenge for folks.
you ready? I don't.
Ooh.
It comes in. That's and I think the one of the frameworks I talk about is getting to your baseline, knowing what your baseline is, right? I am not Alechia, I'm not Dani, I'm not Mel Robbins, I'm not Oprah Winfrey. And I learned this because I read 20 self-help books and I'm listening to all the podcasts and I'm doing all the things. But if I'm constantly feeding myself with all this stuff that I don't have an opportunity to practice who I am, who I really am at my core, you know, so I have to know what my baseline is so that I can get to the next level. And sometimes that is ugly. Sometimes it's really ugly because I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated. There are people in my family that didn't show up the way that I thought they were. There are people that outcasted me because a year later I decided to date someone. God forbid. I mean, have you seen me? You know,
And she fine, y'all. She
you know
beautiful.
what I'm saying? Have you seen me? Am I just gonna be out here and then that's it? Like that's it. My life is over? No, they really outcasted me. So I had to deal with all of those feelings and all of those things, and it wasn't always pretty. And I didn't always make the right decisions, but I own it, and I own it in a way of saying, this is the information I had at the time. This is what I was able to do during this space and learn from it and move forward. But if I'm feeding myself too much, I don't even know who I am. And I think, you know, that's my message too, is sometimes I say, you know, yeah, it's great and trendy to say I'm working on being the best version of myself. How about work on being you first?
Yeah.
Yeah, figuring that out.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
then,
love that we're talking about relationships because that's one of the biggest shifts that people don't account for, especially in the face of death. When I experienced something like that, and just to see what it brings out of people is just terrifying, honestly. Sometimes it just compounds with everything else you're going through. And you're like, but I got to deal with this too. Like, hold on, Jesus. Wait a minute. And I know part of your framework is auditing your people and your environment because that's going to be such a big part of what your experience and the journey through this is going to be. So, can you talk a little bit more about how your relationships did shift after your husband's death, and how can someone start doing their own audits and kind of working through the relationship piece, because it's something you just don't quite bargain for. You're like, oh, like everyone's sad, everyone's grieving together. We're all going to handle it like this, and we're going to come together, and we're going to be there for each other, and it's going to bring us closer together. And that is just from my own experience, from other people's that I've spoken to experience. That just don't be what that don't happen. That don't happen for everybody. It tends to tear families apart. Don't let some monies get involved, child. People don't know what to do. So many people didn't prepare for this transitional phase. So families are left in it, like you said, with having a burden in some ways financially, with scrambling, trying to figure out who, what, where, especially in the case of a lot of these blended families that we have now. There's so many, this brother over here, this sibling over there. I mean, there's just so much. So if you could speak a little bit more to the relationship piece, and like I said, how can we do our audits and kind of manage that in a way that doesn't sink the ship?
Yeah. Wow. How much time we have on this podcast?
We got time.
So here's the thing. When you're talking about navigating relationships, what do people say when someone, oh my God, if you need anything, call me. If there's anything that you need, call me. And it's kind of like a survival, just kind of a norm that people say.
Yeah.
But you need to know if you lose someone, don't believe them. They're just being nice. They're just saying the nice thing. They, like, you know how when you pick up the phone, you say, hi, how are you? Can you, but you just asked me how, I didn't even answer. That's, it's like a routine thing to ask, right?
Yeah.
Everybody goes through their grief differently. And in my relationships, for sure, the people that I thought was going to be there for me 10 toes down were not. And the people that I never expected showed up for me. I have friends to this day. I'm going to the dry cleaners. I need to lay eyes on you. Okay, I'm home. I'm here. And there are other people I haven't heard from since he passed. And there are family members that didn't even show up to his memorial.
Yep.
So you want to talk about relationships and how do you deal with that? You have to, first of all, in my framework is it's very harsh, but it's stop lying to yourself.
Oh.
So there's this thing in the culture that's been going around about, I don't care what people think. I don't care what nobody thinks. I don't care what people think. That's how I got to where I am. I don't know if we curse on here, but I call BS.
Oh, we curse.
Okay. I call bullshit. Okay. I call bullshit completely. I know. And that's why I said, get to your baseline. I know that I care deeply. I care. If I walk down the street right now and somebody calls me a dirty name, right? It's going to affect me. Now, I'm going to consider the source and say, man, that man don't even know me. What's wrong with him? What's going on with him? Is he mentally challenged? Like, what's going on, right? But that doesn't mean it doesn't impact me, right? Yeah. So I'm being honest with myself and taking charge of knowing, how do I feel? What's happening here? Yeah. And then if I have someone like Tyler Perry who comes and says, I think you should do it this way, I might pay attention. I'm going to give stock to it, right? Yeah. So what I'm saying is, don't jump on the bandwagon if I don't care what people think, because you do care. There is a level of care, but you have to consider the source on where it's coming from and whether that's going to be information and data that flows out of me or whether that's something I need to take stock in. So that's number one in looking at relationships. And then number two with relationships is energy. Reciprocity, right? It's how are you reciprocating the energy from me? Now, I'm a very dynamic person, right? So I'm very outward of energy, but if I am finding that I'm more pouring out than being poured into, I have to take stock of that. Yeah. And so that's what I did in my relationships, because when you are in a grieving state, to your listeners who are in a grieving state, wherever that is, you are in a fragile state. You are to protect yourself. And as you are protecting yourself, then you have to take stock and inventory of the energy that is around you. And what do I feel when am I at a deficit when I'm with this person? Do I feel poured into when I'm with this person? Like, what does that look like? And it may take some time. And I always talk about, I've been every version of any human being throughout this process. When he first passed away, I was like, my son was like, what is happening? I didn't know if I was going to be and I just said this the other day, I didn't know if it was going to be a nun or a hoe in these streets. I didn't know what I was going to be.
Just confused. You gave yourself the option. It was wide open.
It was out there. It was out there. So I say all that to say it's hard for the people that are trying to have relationships with me because they're like, I don't know who you are or what you're trying. And I'm like, listen, I don't know who I am.
Yeah, figure it out.
The whole entire world being turned upside down, and I've always been a wife. I've always been a wife. I've had, not always, but I was a wife and I had a family. So now it's like, who am I? So sometimes your relationships around you have a hard time dealing with that. And sometimes you have to isolate to get to your baseline, to figure out and take inventory. That's it. I mean, that's, and it's hard. It is not easy. There's not a perfect math, but there's a process that you can do in elimination. It doesn't mean that they're gone all the time. I mean, they may come back, but for right now, that's not jiving with me right now. So,
yeah. I really, really like that. So then it's the allowing yourself to figure out, I don't know who I am right now, and being around those people who give you the latitude and the freedom to figure whoever that is out. Yeah. And so then when you get to the glow up piece, I was taking a look, and you truly do believe in live it loud, right? Like that's a part of your glow up. You got to live it loud. So what would you say is that one, or maybe two, unapologetic choice that you made that completely shifted things when you needed those shifts?
I am authentically me, raw, here I am. That's it. What you see is what you get. I make no excuses. I show up. This is who I am. So when you move into the glow up phase, I move into this 10 toes down, who I am that day even, right? So there are days that I'm not this, there are days and I acknowledge that and I stand in that and I'm authentic. I don't try to be anyone else. I don't try to coddle anyone. I don't have the time or energy. I talk to you about what I'm feeding myself. I don't watch the news because you know why? I know my baseline. I do not have the capacity to take on the worries of the world. I kind of know what's going on because I'm in the social media and things like that, but I can't tap into that news every single day. I don't have the capacity. I have enough devastation to last me a few decades, And so that's kind of when I go into the glow up, I kind of put those things in place, those safeguards in place so that I can truly be my most authentic self and really try to tap into whatever I'm feeling in that moment during that time. But that's authenticity and being raw and unedited. That's what widowhood gave me, is the audacity to be authentic, to be raw. And no one can take that from me at all. I watched my husband take his last breath in my bedroom right there. I have the audacity to be whoever I want at any given time. And so that's kind of what that gave me in the glow up phase.
But for someone, and that's amazing because that's just not usually what people would evolve into. Yeah. So I am so relieved that there's someone doing work in the world where that is an option that you're offering, especially to women, to step into that space and not feel like they're just done with, there's no more, ain't nobody else gonna want me with all this that I have, all this baggage, all this pain, all this grief. So for someone who feels like, I know that I have moments even still today, and I lost someone who's like a father to me when I was like 16 years old. I'm 35 now, and I still have like very tough days. Holidays are tough. Having my children is really tough. Like, they're just very like just strange moments that I'm like, why is this like hitting me today like this? So I have moments where I'll feel guilty sometimes that I'm just living my life and that I've like moved on. And sometimes I'm like looking around and there's other funerals or other family things. And I'm just like, how is this person not here? Like, this is just not right. Like, he should be here. And it almost feels wrong or like a betrayal to enjoy your life or to smile or to find joy, or I'm sure for some people to even fall in love again, to start dating again, to have another child if you've lost a child. Like there's so much guilt and fear and kind of like restriction a lot of times. That's why I love that you say it gave you audacity, because for a lot of people it's the opposite, where they just kind of close off, because not only because of the grief, but because of the guilt and like survivor's remorse of like trying to move on. So what would you say to them is like a way to start that process of like, okay, it's giving themselves the permission to do the things?
Yeah. So I would say to them that my audacity is not every day. I'm not
Mm,
feeling the audacity, the guilt, the shame, but all of that is always there. It is always there. I would want nothing more than to have my husband here with me.
yeah.
And acknowledging, and I think that's what we do is we say, I don't want to be this, I want to be this. And I
Yeah.
think that once we kind of say, okay, I feel this, I got some joy, I have joy, I'm happy right now, but oh my God, he's not here, he can't smile with me, he can't be happy
Yeah.
with me, this is happening, I'm at this party having a good time, I'm out with this family, I'm at this reunion, he could be here, he could be enjoying all of this. And it's to acknowledge that everything about what I say in my framework, if you notice, I'm repeating it over and over, acknowledge where you are. Acknowledge where you are. I never talk about I was here and I'm here now. No, I still have shame and guilt over him not seeing my, by the way, my 16-year-old, 6'4", 180-pound man child that I say he left me here with, by the way. That's his child that he left me here with. To talk about like having joys of him playing baseball and watching him and wanting his dad there. Do I walk around saying, well, I have all that? No, I feel that guilt and that shame that I'm able to be there and support him. So acknowledge that and feel that. But then on the flip side, when you think about that, you kind of flip it on its head and you say, you know what? But guess what? I am here. And in spite of the grief and what I've gone through, I'm going to have the audacity to live this life because I deserve and I am worthy, because you know why? I still have veins, blood in my veins. I still have breath in my body, and God's not done with me yet. And so
Yeah.
that's where my audacity comes in. And so my audacity is not a permanent state. It's phases that I go in and come out of. But yeah, it still hits me from time to time. So
Yeah. It sounds like you're allowing yourself, because most people say, well, I'm either black or white, but it sounds like you're allowing yourself to live in the gray and to move and flow through the duality of life's experiences, which is something that is incredibly difficult for so many people, because how can I be this and I can't be left and right? And you're literally giving permission to say, no, actually you can, because these are polar opposite feelings, deep love and deep grief, or so you think it is, but it's actually way more aligned and connected than you'd ever imagine. And if you honor maybe the both of them, then the grief isn't, yes, it is still debilitating at times, but there's a level of understanding. For most people who go through labor, you know that, yes, this hurts. I don't know how long this gonna hurt, but I know at the end of it, I will birth this new thing. Now, I don't know what this new thing will be, right? Because there's no playbook, there's no instruction manual, there's no guide as to who and what this new thing is. But I know at the end of it, I'll birth this thing. And if you keep living, you eventually, sorry, y'all, TMI. Actually, no, not TMI, because the men and the women need to know this. Then there's the afterbirth, because after you birth the human, then you also have to birth the placenta.
yes.
Okay.
I love that you said duality. That
Yes.
is everything. That's my entire life is dual. I can be crying on the floor for 3 hours, wake
Yeah.
up, shower, beat my face, and be out at a party. And you know, one of my videos that went viral, I mean, I think it's like at 40, 30, I don't even know, is talking about exactly that, because people understand that there's a duality in this thing. Like it's not, and I'm very, very particular about not saying I'm this person now. I'm all of it all the time. It shows up, like you said, it passed through me.
I
It comes
love
up, it
that.
comes out. So it's not
Yeah.
something that you can shut away at all.
Yeah, no, I love, and even what Alicia said about the duality, and it's just all encompassing. Like, you don't have to choose. Like, you don't have to pick, like, I'm just this thing, or I'm just that thing, or I'm only allowed to be sad. It's like, allow yourself to be reinvented all the time. Like, it's okay to just shed this for this moment, and then you can tap back into that thing. I think that is so powerful just for women who aren't even grieving. Like, women need to be more okay with kind of being chameleons. Like, no, like, I'm this thing and I'm that thing and I'm that thing over there. And sometimes I might be this on Sundays. Like, you just don't know. You just don't know who I
Say
am
it again.
after midnight. Like, and
Yes.
to embrace it and not feel so stuck in these boxes. And I know you went from like corporate finance baddie, like, okay, to now in this space of disrupting grief. And, what did, and a lot of us in COVID just period had to do so much pivoting in the midst of grief. So what did that teach you about who you really are? Because that's one of the things is I find grief to be very exposing. It is going to expose all the things.
Yes. It exasperates things that were already there.
Oh yeah.
Right. What it taught me was resilience. And let me give you a different definition of resilience, because I have a little bit of an issue of thinking that you can teach people resilience in a sense, right? Resilience isn't not going through anything. Resilience is I didn't get angry, or I didn't get sad, or I didn't feel guilt, or I didn't feel shame. Resilience is how quickly can you get back to your baseline?
Swimming to shore.
How quickly can I get back? That's it. Did I let it take me out for 2 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, whatever that is, whatever your baseline is? How quickly was I able to come back? And that's how I was able to kind of notice, okay, Donielle, again, first of all, what all your listeners need to know, this is 2 decades of therapy right here. 2 decades of therapy. And I'm still in therapy. Therapy is extremely important. You need to have a professional, someone who knows how to talk you through grief, knows what you're going through, and not just grief. I mean, therapy should be a lifestyle, like you go to the doctor, seriously. But understanding, and when I did that pivot, I learned that my resilience was there, but I learned that before my husband passed away. I learned that when I went through childhood neglect. I went through when I had to go through my mom and my dad abandoning me. Like, I knew that there was something inside of me. So you just have to tap into what that something inside of you is that brings you back to your baseline. And that's where my resilience comes from. And we all have it in us. All of us have it in us. It's just kind of being present long enough to tap. What's that?
I said some of us have it more than others. Like,
some of us more than others. This is true. This is true. Some of us more than others. But being able to take that muscle and tap into that and find out, okay, what am I dealing with? What's going on? Do I need extra support? Do I need medication? Let's talk about it. There are some people that it's not just therapy. It's not just self-help books and a good podcast. It is medication that they need, and being honest with that. So that's how you kind of get back to kind of your baseline and kind of where you are, and work yourself through that.
Yeah. It is. I'm a firm believer, and Dani and I say it all the time, is to be radically honest with yourself. That is too.
That's a lot better than saying stop lying to yourself.
No, both are great, because you do. That's a real thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think because it feels better. What is it? They call it sweet lies, where the lies just feel so good. Like, they so sweet. They like come up to you and like, rub on you a little bit, give you a little massage. They be caressing you and stuff. For me, okay. I'd rather, a bitter truth versus a sweet lie, because at least with that bitterness, I'm aware of what comes with it. I know how to handle, I can manage it. I can properly either prepare or respond to what that is. And so as we are closing out, I would like to know, for listeners who are in the thick of grief, whether it is the loss of a loved one, or the loss of a child, or the loss of an opportunity. And I know we don't always speak about that too, but sometimes losing things that you thought would be there for forever, yet it still is in the land of the living. So for folks who are in the thick of things right now, what is one practical step that they can take today to start that rebuilding or rebirthing process?
Yeah, I would definitely say being kind to themselves. And I'll say that in two ways because we always say grace, and that's the same thing, but being kind to yourself, getting back to your baseline, checking in with where you are. Just sit there and be present and find out where I am. There were moments where I was angry. I was so angry and tired. I was exhausted. And I had to tap into that. Where am I right now? Just finding my baseline and being kind to yourself. And so the second thing is there's a quote that I stole from somewhere. We always stealing something, right? And it said, I have never been here before.
Yep.
In every stage and everything that we go through. I have never been on a podcast speaking to you beautiful ladies before.
Yeah.
I have never been here before. And so, in every area of your life, when you go through things, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a bad breakup, whether it's the job, I have never been in this space at this age, in this body, in this environment before. And so, that's how you give yourself kindness and say, okay, I need to sit back, I need to be present, and I need to kind of figure that out and know what my baseline is.
Seriously, thank you, Donielle, for sharing so much. We need this conversation, and we need to keep having these conversations so that we can disrupt grief and disrupt how we're dealing with things and how we're managing and how we're processing and how we're framing things. It's just, we don't have, like Alechia was saying, in American culture, we just don't have a healthy framework. For it, and there are so many cultures who do, so it's not like it's non-existent or it's impossible to have. It is there are people who really honor their dead and honor transitioning and really understand, like that death is not the end and that it is a transition and that energy never die. Like there's so many different frameworks and modalities and ways of really looking at death that can be so healing and transformational. So I'm so pleased that you are introducing something else to the world and giving them another tool to manage all the grief that we are inevitably going to go through, because if we don't got to do nothing, we do, especially for Black folk, we got to stay Black and die,
Yes.
So for someone to be doing the work to assist us through that latter part, that is going to, I'm sure, going to continue to disrupt the space that you're entering and that you're in now. So how can people stay connected with you? How can they get in touch? How are the ways we can keep up with you?
No, absolutely. So on my social profiles on TikTok and Instagram, my handle is My Husband Died So. And I'm fighting with some people about my name. But listen, here's the thing. I'm putting it on its face. I'm putting it in your face, and I want to evoke emotion, right? Yeah. So my husband died so now what? My husband died so now I'm dating. My husband died so now I'm a solo parent. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. And then I have just launched the G3 playbook, which is from grief through grit to the glow up. And that is exactly what it is. It's a framework. It is not I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. You go get your counselor and your therapy if you want to work through the deep dark of the grief. I talk about grief, but I more so talk about it in a way to move you through the grit and get you to the glow up. And I give you those frameworks and those practices in that book. It is out for pre-sale right now. And so for your listeners, it's stopping on October 5th, but for your listeners, I will extend the pre-sale price of $29.99 right now. You can get it, a link in my bio. You can get the pre-sale price. And then on October 18th, which is the day that my husband passed away, it's the day of we celebrated our anniversary, our 16-year anniversary. I am dropping the full book, and it would be $49 because he died at 49 years of age. And so that is when I'm dropping it. You'll be able to see that link in my bio, but come follow me. You'll see all kinds of from here to there and Come check me out. Come check a girl out. The Grief Disruptor.
Thank you so much. Y'all already know you can stay connected with me everywhere, all over at Alechia Reese. She got excited. My mama was real happy when she started spelling it. Alechia, last name Reese, Reese. And also, too, make sure you join the community. Visit justthrivenow.com to be in community with us, because we are not just talking about things that trigger us. We are actually providing tools to help you overcome them, because community is the game changer and the cheat code.
You can stay connected with me at the Dani Bourdeau. You can also go to @TriggeredAFPC to follow us on Instagram, and continue to go to triggeredafpodcast.com for the latest and the greatest. We want to thank you all so much. Please share this episode with everyone you know, because at some point they will need the conversation and the tools and the tips. So thank you all so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.